First Officer's Log Supplemental. Baen'ithon, the captain of the alien shuttlecraft, has been oddly tight-lipped about what they were doing flying through the Canyon of Cava'xit. Captain Malik has asked me to see if I can't learn the truth, while he smooths over the situation that's been developing in orbit. Welcome back once again. We are continuing with part 2 of Strike of a Match. In the last session, as you likely recall, the USS Jemison happened upon a distress signal. A ship had gone down in a canyon, so to speak, that turned out to be more of a planet that had been cracked in half. The locals did not seem to be particularly thrilled by their attempts to retrieve the alien vessel that had gone down. And here we are. We're back on the USS Jemison, and Commander Paulson is speaking with the alien captain Baen'ithon. Once again, this alien species is humanoid with a horn on their heads. Baen'ithon has a crack in his that seems to resemble, at least superficially, the Canyon of Cava'xit. So we enter into a monologue that he's giving, somewhere in the middle. I'm not going to go over the whole monologue, but it's clear that he's wearing like very traditional robes. There'd be like kind of a Buddhist vibe to him, although he's got very clearly is made of more like wealth than is maybe more traditional in kind of the Buddhist monk culture. From the very little that I understand, don't quote me. So he's wearing fancy rings. He's got the fabric on his robes is exquisite, kind of silky, very clearly expensive material. And we come in the middle of a sentence, and he says, "I'm sorry, Commander Paulson, but I am afraid I'm not able to speak of our matters with outsiders." "Well, Baen'ithon, we're not going to be able to keep you from those people outside if you're not able to help us." He pauses for a moment to think over her words. Let's go ahead and do our first task. Let's get into it right away. She is speaking with kind of, I'd call this a reasoned command. She's using a very reasoned approach to using logos, logic, to attempt to convince him. So this will be a reasoned command test, difficulty 13. I still have a momentum to use from last time. I had used up my threat. So let's see what we get. Oh boy. That's an 18 and a 17. Suffice it to say, we're going to use our momentum. Oh, okay. Do I have to use the second result? I think I do. That's going to be a threat. I rolled a 20. We're going to pause real quick. We're going to switch out dice. It's mostly fitting. As a scientist, I should be using the blue dice anyways. Yeah, sure. That's the reason I'm switching. No other reason. All right, so we've got our first failure of the session, third failure of the mission. So she's going to try and push it. She's going to say, "Well, Baen'ithon, if you're not willing to speak with us, I'm afraid we're going to have no other opportunity, or excuse me, we have no other recourse than to put you back on your ship and get you off ours." Now, the real question is, does he begin to sweat? Is this something that he really wants to avoid? I think it's probably 50-50. We'll just see. I have no feelings one way or the other. This doesn't seem to bother him overly much. And I think it's pretty clear to Commander Paulson that Baen'ithon is aware that she's bluffing. They're not about to put them off the ship when there are people who have literally fired upon them for breaching the sanctity, so to speak, of the Canyon of Cava'xit. So she's gonna kind of relent, and I don't think she's got many other options there. So instead, Commander Paulson, recognizing that Baen'ithon is unlikely to relent, change his opinions, is going to release him and try a more casual approach. she's going to reach out to and kind of get to know some of the others who are injured. So she's going to head to sickbay. And there she will meet, making up a name on the spot, La'ar Tel Il. Sure, La'ar Tel Il. All one word, one name, La'ar Tel Il. So she heads to sickbay to check in on La'ar Tel Il, who was a member of the shuttle who was injured in their crash. As she arrives in sickbay, she would see Dr. Waring finishing patching up the young woman, and would approach the doctor and say in more of a casual whisper, "Dr. Waring, how is she? How's our patient?" "She'll do just fine, Commander. I'm ready to release her, as a matter of fact." "I apologize. I can't remember the voices I've used for most of the NPCs. I will have to make a note when I use them in the next episode." Commander Paulson then would return and kind of turn to La'ar Tel Il and would say, "Excuse me, if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to show you to the mess hall. You must be famished. I'm aware that your ship was stuck down there for a number of hours." La'ar Tel Il would say, "Yes, that would be most welcome." So as they talk, Commander Paulson would start to use her whatever natural charm she possesses. And I think this would be a presence, certainly a presence test. And she's just trying to be friendly. So I think command is honestly the best option, although security could work here. It's going to be a security test. I think that makes the most sense. So we'll call it presence security. It's a 13. Going to use the threat right away. And we will see what we can do. We need 2 successes against a 13. These dice better not fail me. Oh, okay. 16 and a 17. That's 2 failures. Everybody that she has run across from this ship is incredibly tight-lipped. And at this point, I think she gives up. I don't think she has any other recourse but to give up in wheedling the information out of the crew of this alien shuttle. So instead, she's going to lead La'ar Tel Il, to the mess hall. We'll show her how to work the... it's not a replicator, it's a protein resequencer. Assuming they call it the same thing on original series that they do on Enterprise. And then would come up with an excuse to leave, would hand her off to some ensign in mess hall, and would then head to the bridge. En route to the bridge, maybe we see a shot of one of the windows on the ship. Commander Paulson kind of does a double take and looks out, and we see 40 ships arrayed in front of the window, all kind of pointing, I would say menacingly. It's hard for a ship to be menacing, but its positioning is very clear that they are there to make sure that the Jemison does not move from its current position, at least not without a fight. Alright, so she heads to the bridge. She arrives, the captain isn't there, and she's told that the captain wanted to see her in his quarters at the first opportunity. So she heads down a deck, 2 decks, wherever the captain's quarters are, and meets with him in his office, since he doesn't have a ready room. Captain says, "Well, Commander, you managed to get anything out of our guests? The folks over there are a bit punchy about the whole situation, and I'm curious to see what you managed to learn." "Sorry, Captain. They were reticent to speak with me. Everyone I spoke to was incredibly tight-lipped." "Well, I'm not terribly surprised. From everything I've learned, it sounds like the Canyon of Cava'xit is a holy place to their people. Their civilization grew up on this planet until about 1,000 years ago, when they managed to take some primitive uh, spacefaring vessels and flee to the second planet in the system, the third planet in the system. As an asteroid was coming in, that asteroid cracked that thing open like an egg. Now, it's an interesting situation. The impact also slowed the planet down, according to them, to the point where the canyon only passes the Terminator about once every 70 or so years, at least by their reckoning. We have arrived just in time. It's in about 2 days. Supposedly, the sunlight causes a great array of fancy something. They were a bit vague on that, but it's against their culture to fly in, and that certainly seems to be, at least according to them, what that shuttle was doing. Well, I really can't say much on that front, sir. The shuttle and their captain, Baen'ithon, they hold it in a certain amount of reverence as well, but they seem to be, at least from what they weren't saying. Let's go ahead and do another test here. In the middle of the sentence, we will do we'll call it an insight test to see if Commander Paulson could read between what the members of the alien shuttle were refusing to say. So this is going to be an insight security. She's very bad at this. So we've got about a 50-50 shot of this happening. Target number of 10. I don't think she's got any focuses that come into play, so it's just going to be a roll. Well, all my dice hate me. We rolled another 20. I wish I were playing D&D. And we rolled a 12, so that's another failure. Not even their silences, sir, told me anything about what they were actually doing down there. 3 tasks into the second act, and this is not going anywhere. Well, Commander, my best recommendation is to keep at it. Do you think they're any sort of security threat? Frankly, no, sir. There's only 5 or 6 of them, and they don't seem to be the kind to take things into their own hands. At least not on a ship like ours. Against people out there, maybe, but we're Starfleet, sir. I suppose you're right. Well, Commander, keep me apprised. Okay. And I think I'm going to spend the threat at this point in time to add a complication. And I have a good idea of where this deserves to go, based on how things have gone so far. Let's see. I just want to see if there's any good things to roll for here. Yeah, let's go ahead and roll a d20 on the systems failure chart once again. The shuttle that they've taken previously, they did manage to get back before life support ran out. It is now being maintained by the engineering department. But this is for the Jemison itself. Drop that die. A 4. Okay. So we'll call that, the engines, but in this case I think we're going to call it main power. Suddenly, the ship experiences a main power failure. The lights go out. Commander Paulson has already exited the captain's cabin and is heading back towards the mess hall to retrieve L'Ar to Tel Il. And the only light that she now has, at least before the emergency lighting comes on, is from the ships through the viewport. The emergency lighting comes on. She rushes over to a bulkhead a few sections down and retrieves I don't remember what the flashlights looked like in the original series. That's a shame. She retrieves a hand light. We'll just say they look pretty similar to the next-gen hand lights, the kind of awkward handheld beacons. And knowing her, she's also going to retrieve a phaser. Her Type 2 phaser, which she normally, of course, wouldn't carry on board the ship. So she's got her phaser back. And since it's the main power, she rushes down to engineering. Okay. So as she gets down to engineering, the doors open in front of her, and she sees Lieutenant Reardon standing by. Now here's a good question. This is a good time to use the probability table. So the way I see it, and what I've chosen to do, is have our alien guests sabotage the Jemison in order to try and ensure that they're able to take their shuttle and leave. I have an idea of what their actual goal is, and the real question is, are they going to be able to achieve that goal? So they've sabotaged main power, and I think they've probably tried something else, but I want to see where this progresses before I bring that into play. Now the real question is, have they managed to sabotage main power without taking hostages? So, and this is essentially going to determine if the next task is a combat task or if the next task is an engineering task. So in this case, I don't know that I've got a strong suspicion one way or the other as to whether or not they've taken hostages. They seem to be pretty well prepared, and considering the fact that Commander Paulson has failed everything she's tried to do in this act, I think it's unlikely that they've taken, somewhat improbable that they've taken hostages. It's certainly, there's a chance of it, but considering how badly I've rolled, I think they've managed to do this without having to take hostages. More likely than not. So we'll say they've avoided hostages is the 1 through 7, looking at this line of the table. Or they've had to take hostages is an 8 to a 20. Let's see what we get. Drop the dice. Keep rolling off my desk. We are at a 10. They have not taken... hold on. Did I do that right? Yes. No, I flipped that. Because I don't think that they would have had to take hostages. So the 8 to a 20 is the not... They did not take hostages, which is what I rolled. So our next task will be an engineering task. So Commander Paulson rushes in. She sees Lieutenant Reardon running about, her hair kind of going wild. She's got a hand light, and they've got a few kind of stationary lights on tripods. They look like a mix between transporter pattern enhancers and old-fashioned like flashlights stands. And they're rushing about, trying to figure out where the fault is in the engines, in the warp core, essentially. And so, yeah, we'll get into a... this is going to be another presence command test, as Commander Paulson gives a "Lieutenant, what the hell's going on with my ship?" sort of speech. And we'll see if they can't come to a solution. Once again, we've got a threat to spend, so it's going to be a 2... Oh, no, I spent that threat. I spent that threat to have the power go out. That's right. Alright, so just a straight 15 target number. Please, oh please. And I think using composure here works for sure. She's trying to keep cool and collected under pressure. Okay, 1 success, a 13 and an 18. Okay. Yeah, 1 success. That's all we needed. Didn't have to spend our threat for that. So, they managed to find that it wasn't a physical thing, but one of the aliens on board, or somebody, they don't necessarily know it's the aliens, I think they'll suspect, but somebody, a member of the Argulians, weird word to say, likely slipped a virus into the computer system. And that virus took down main power and seemed to do something else. But as we did not do particularly well, it's going to take them a while to clear the virus from the ship's systems. Commander Paulson and Lieutenant Reardon would get to talking, and they'd come to the conclusion, well, they had to do this for a reason. There's no reason to put a virus in our systems unless they were trying to distract us. But from what? The shuttle bay? Commander Paulson rushes off. Since that was a success, I'm going to say that it didn't take them a huge amount of time to find the virus. So we'll give it 50-50 odds that Commander Paulson has a chance to reach the shuttle bay before they have completely gotten into their ship. So yes, she gets there in time. No, she doesn't. So let's go for it. No, she doesn't. All right. So Commander Paulson rushes in, and we see the door on their shuttle close. And I think Commander Paulson is now going to have to attempt to shut the shuttle bay doors and keep them from decompressing. So she rushes into that kind of side booth. I'm assuming that, because we don't see the shuttle bays that often in the original series, I'm going to assume that they've got a section of the shuttle bay, like in Enterprise, that's removed and able to be pressurized. So she rushes into that bay, and I think this is going to be I think it's going to be a contest because it's contest. It's going to be a con test as she looks through, or is it engineering? We'll call it control engineering. So we're looking for a 12 as she tries to keep the shuttle bay doors from opening. I think she'd find the standard engineers, the shuttle bay attendants, unconscious, and will be forced to do it herself. So let's see. We are looking for a control engineering. That's a 12. I haven't rolled below a 12 in a while. All right. Well, we succeeded. That's an ace. And a 20. We're going to spend the 20 right away. I have a strong feeling as to how that's going to go. So she manages to get the shuttle bay doors closing again, and we see the alien vessel, which at first scan didn't seem to have any major weapons emplacements. Didn't seem like they had torpedo launchers or anything like that. But as they're kind of hovering and blasting for the doors, we see them fire phasers, and the shuttle bay doors are blasted open, and the ship gets out. So that was our 10th task. We have succeeded on exactly half of our tasks so far. So I think in the third and final act, we're going to be dealing with the repercussions of this vessel getting loose. The fact that the main shuttle bay is now basically inoperable, and how exactly are the crew of the Jemison going to get around this situation? I look forward to hearing what you all think of how this mission has gone so far. Make sure to tune in next time for part 3 of 3 in Strike of a Match. Until then, live long and prosper.